Mic Drop Radio.
Dude, we should actually start with that, hey? Like,
You're fucking 10 fly, bud.
you're fucking 10 fly, bud.
I was wondering if you had added that in.
Oh, it's been on there all the time. It was just my big sloppy hand just sort of hit both of them.
Fat fingered the whole thing.
Just the whole board, just bonk. Fucking 10 ply, bud. Speaking of 10 ply, bud, toilet paper.
What a way to kick off.
What a way to kick off Friday. Wee! My dude, how are you, Jer?
I'm doing great. How about yourself?
I'm feeling like it's Friday. I'm feeling emotionally bagged, personally.
Yeah.
I feel like tapped out. I've got another thing tech has been a monstrosity this week, so I'm being smarter about this because the tech's not ready for my 6 o'clock today.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna move that to next week and just rework the presentation. It just wasn't working for me. I was like, no, I can't just go out half-assed, and I think that's important. You know, I would rather give 100% on something and postpone it just a bit than
Totally.
put it out there in like half-ass fashion. Fucking 10 ply, bud. How about you? What's news on this week, dude? What'd you get up to? What was the highlight?
Let's see. What was the highlight this week? You know, it was something cool. We were riffing on this just a little bit earlier. Is you know, even though times can get to be a little stressful sometimes, or may find yourself in a situation where there's a little tension in the air, and being able to simply take that deep breath and just feel like everybody else take that breath with you and just shoulders drop down a little bit. Had a moment like that today, and it was like, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, you're saying. I'm curious to see what time that was today.
It was, you know, for us, like, especially, you know, you guys are likely feeling the same thing. It's gotten a little bit colder this week, and I feel like that seasonal shift from like, it's kind of fall to holy shit, it's almost winter's
right
like,
there.
right there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Everybody just gets a little bit But yeah, it was late morning.
You just did it. Everybody gets there. Yeah. And okay, that's interesting because it was right around my noon, so probably pretty close in the same time I was in the store, and this one guy came in and he was just livid. And I'm rarely in like retail. And I have so much appreciation for those people and service industry people that take these dickheads and just, you can see them clearly wanting to like just reach out over the top and just Superman punch this guy in the head. Like just, and I didn't say anything, but I just like made my presence known. Same way. I was like, just loud enough so that this clown show could hear me breathing.
Yeah.
And it caught the attention of everybody, like all the employees behind the back. And there's like, they all just sort of looked at me, and I'm like, hey, everybody.
What's up?
How y'all doing? Yeah. It was just like,
y'all think about your breath today?
Yeah. How y'all doing? What's been the highlight of your day? What do you guys like in your coffee? And it just like totally pattern disrupted, and it just jarred the whole situation. So this guy just stopped lighting this one employee up. Like he was just being rude. There was no point to it. He was just being an asshole, borderline racist. And I'm sitting here going like, come on, man. Like, stop. Like, get out of the store. Like, time to go. Carry on about, you know, making somebody else's day miserable. Like, it was so dumb. So I hear you. Breath. Oh.
Yeah.
We'll
definitely chat on that a bit more.
I was gonna say, yeah, for today's show, for sure. You want to get into some music? What do you?
Yeah.
I don't imagine you're listening to heavy then.
No, I haven't. Well, you know, heavy's always relative, man. Just like like in the weight world. This week, the thing that's been popping up a little bit more for me is been hitting some German hip hop lately.
What?
Yeah.
Okay.
Listen to my man Zito. Yeah.
I don't know too many of the band names. I just know that when I was in Germany, that was the coolest experience. Like the flat house, they just put me up in, and like they just cranked this German hip hop and French hip hop. Like they were going crazy about the French stuff too. There's like this 5-piece French like super group that I can't think of their name, but they were unbelievable. They were just like, whoa, this is great. Cool.
Yeah. Yeah,
so
had some of that.
very different.
Maybe even a little bit of yeah, when the hip hop comes through, like internationally for me, it like hits. So it's like Zito on the German side, Face on the Russian side.
Wow.
Yeah,
I'm gonna have to get a playlist going, dude. Like I need to
and
keep it. Let's put something
expand your-
together, dude.
Yeah.
Let's put something together for the school group. Like
That'd be really cool.
Seriously, that'd be fun. We get a collaborative little jam going on that. Like, what's everybody listening to? Like this week, that'd be fun. I like that.
Like that. How about you? What's been on your playlist?
Oh man, Cass just had her show last night. It was a Halloween show. This week was actually like it was a lot of prep. I think that's likely where now that I think about it, where I'm feeling so burnt because it was like weird hours. Rehearsals are late in town, so I was up at weird hours. Just like my whole days shifted. It wasn't like a lack of sleep. It was just like it shifted 2 hours. I was like, okay, cool. So I just had to shift my day. So like the most of the music that I was listening to was in rehearsals. I did just pick up, this is the retail. I picked up these bad boys. The Ray-Bans
Oh yeah.
that I can now video you. Now I'm
Oh yeah.
watching you. See, it's the blinky. I'm watching you, and they're transitions. So then I can go into the sunshine, and I look like Christopher Walken. And then when I come back out, I can go into the show, and I don't look like last night. I actually had the other pair were like the golds, and they were just way dark. But I was like Corey Hart. So, you asked a question of the actual music. I don't actually have an artist to answer with. Who have I been listening to this week? Honestly, Calm, like the app Calm. They gave me a free subscription for 3 months, and it plays on these. So
Totally.
I've been listening to Calm lo-fi. Really trying to inspire my own creativity because I've taken a bit of a break from that while building up all of these different music fit ideas, and I've noticed that I haven't put intentional time into. I've been creating but not recording and producing, so I've just been like playing, just getting the creativity going. I wouldn't call it a block. I'd call it a borderline block. And because like I really am one that likes to put everything down to record. So when I'm playing drums, if I'm not recording it, I don't know when I have that idea, then it like it's there, right? And I can revisit it. Or if I'm hitting the handpan with wood flute or a little bit of guitar. I have noticed though this week my HRV has been insane. Like super high again, which is really, really nice. And the biggest difference is more creation.
Oh, cool.
So yeah.
Yeah.
So Calm, lo-fi beats.
Yeah. I mean that's brain.fm is a constant during the workday.
Same.
Just something to keep the brain juices moving.
Of course.
Without like the distraction of like lyrics and things like that.
Exactly.
Yeah. Speaking of creativity,
Segue.
what are we talking about this week?
Creative blocks we were talking,
Yeah.
man. I love that idea too, especially coming off the heels of my like way too much coffee last week. Because like that fueled so many different things. Okay, so this is my point though, is like movement. Like I know that none of that stuff is going to land right now from last week, but it got me doing the thing that puts me in the place of where I need to be right now. And that's where I would start with like creative blocks. The number one thing I hear is like, oh, I'm waiting for that inspiration. And I'd like to hear what you have to think or have to say about that thought, or think about that say.
yeah. I've been pondering this this week, especially as we've batted this idea back and forth for this topic, and I've been in that position before too, where you feel like you've created this like pressure cooker of performance and expectation that I have to create this thing because I've created this idea or this identity for myself that I'm an artist.
Yep.
Even when your daily paycheck doesn't necessarily rely on like that being the thing that you can do.
Yeah.
There's this big pressure that we put on ourselves to create the best and most amazing thing possible.
Yeah.
And like I've been there on that too of like I really want to finish this album. I want to create this album, and then it's like you get ready, you hit record, and then you're like
Yeah, it's just not there.
shit.
Yeah.
What I found with that for myself, and I've seen this with other people as well, is that while creating that level of pressure for yourself, you shut off all of the creative parts of your brain. Because you're in that execution mode. You're in finishing mode. You're in let's get it over the line. But you don't even you haven't allowed yourself the perspective to even explore it yet.
Yeah.
So much of creativity, from what I've seen and what I've experienced, comes from play.
Yeah.
Like allowing yourself that sense to be a kid again in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
When you were a kid and you were out there making believe and making pretend, did you care that you were doing it perfectly? Did you care that you were making the thing that was going to impress everybody? Yeah, maybe, but like likely when you're in the moment of it, when people talk about flow states and being really in the zone, it has less to do with the execution and finishing of it and more so of being in the process, being in love with doing the thing that you said you wanted to do.
Yeah.
And so I like to remind myself often when I'm feeling a creative blocker like that, or I feel like I'm not allowing myself, or like I feel that self-inflicted pressure, to open it up of like, well, what if I enjoyed this a little bit more? What if I allowed myself to have fun with it? What if I allowed myself to play like a kid? What if I allowed myself to be, or allow whatever I'm creating to be imperfectly perfect?
Yeah.
Perfect in
just to
all
get
its
it out.
flaws.
Yeah.
Just
yeah.
let it be what it's supposed to be, and remove the worry about if it's going to be a hit, if everybody's going to love it. Like, just let it out. Let it be what it's supposed to be. You can craft it. You can change it. You can do everything you want with it. But simply the matter of it coming back to having fun in it, being in love with the process of creation,
Yep.
and removing that self-inflicted pressure, it opens things up so much better. Big
time. One of the things that came after our chat last week too was this will blow your mind too. I told Leanne and I told May, and I was like, I went for a run. I was like, I don't remember the last time I willingly went for a run. Outside of speed skating. It was we did a lot of like cool downs, and we did a lot of flush runs, jogs, when like my knees just wouldn't work for biking, or my back was just too much from being crouched over like this in a turtle on ice, and then on a bike. I mean, I needed, like, I would go for a flush jog.
Stand.
Yeah. So like that was when last time I really focused on running, and I really enjoyed it. Like, oh my goodness, I really enjoyed it. I did like intervals. I think I even put it up as like this was like a thing on Instagram. Like I put it up as like, oh yeah, this is like how to do nasal breathing with jogging, which is like the last time that I was seriously training for that high level. That was my go-to. We would typically get up to 4-to-1. We'd do 4 laps, and then 1 lap all breath through the nose, but you do 4 like quick jog. Not quite tempo, but pretty close, like marathon-y, but a fast marathon. And then we'd take 1 lap of walk, and that was usually our evening cardio work, 2 times a week usually. So like I just brought myself back to that. I really enjoyed it. Knees were fine, hip was fine, calves felt good. I felt them really tighten up right off the top. And all of the juice was flowing. And then what did I do? I came home, I played a whole bunch of music. And it was all really fun stuff. Like my fingers were on. I was playing, like I hadn't played cigar box for a while. So I pulled the cigar box down and I started riffing. And I was like, oh man, this is a lot of fun. Like, huh. And I had all these different ideas and I put them all into my my notes app and just like, okay, well now it's out. Cool. And that's what happens, man. Like all this juice started from moving my body. That's it. That's all it was. Like it's wild the relationship that between the creative flow and actually putting your body in motion.
Yeah, I mean, it's the same thing of like, you know, people who are in the, you know, the workforce. You know, if you're trying to crack a problem anyway, and we've talked about this many times, where taking the break and taking the walk around the block, like moving your body, you know, even just popping in and doing 20 squats, seems like it's going to take me away from the thing that I'm trying to do. And therefore, I shouldn't do that.
Yeah.
And it's amazing where that motion and that pattern interruption, like we talked about earlier in your example in the retail store, that pattern interruption can kick all kinds of things loose and lead you to the exact thing that you were trying to do anyways.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you read Questlove's Creative Quest? Have you read that?
I
book?
haven't.
He mentions something that I've experienced. I'm sure you have too, and many of our listeners, our viewers have been there, being the creatives. When's the point to stop? Like, stop bashing your head against this piece. Like, I've worked with lots of studio musicians that'll just keep going and going and going, and they're getting worse and worse and worse. There's like the diminishing gain there, or like they get to a certain point and they're almost there and they're almost there, and then it just starts falling off. And I've been there behind the drums. I know now, like before I even get there, that I'm gonna go walk, I'm gonna go do something, I'm gonna go work out. I know when my limit is there, where my capacity, my mental fatigue especially, is just not there. For you, do you have a technique? Have you ever experienced it? What do you do to get in or out of that?
You know, I may have talked about these before, but I've got these timers all over the place.
Yeah.
I just started one.
There we go. Perfect. You're on.
Yeah. I like to use my timers as my guideposts because, you know, to make it morbid, given enough rope, I'll find a way to hang myself.
Yeah.
If I give myself 6 hours to do something, guess how long it's going to take? 6 hours.
Yeah.
And it also it that works for me. Like, I like to do at maximum 40 minute blocks of concentrated 40 hours at a time. I just slave into this. Yeah.
we're here for productivity, folks. You heard it here first with Jeremy Grunsteiner. He's jamming.
Yeah.
We worked for
Very
40 hours. Fucking straight.
In one day.
I've really 40 hours in one day. Yeah. He's really efficient, guys. He's Jesus,
yeah.
fuck.
But like a 20 and 10, 40-20, creating little blocks for myself of that, because it forces that break to happen. And especially if it's something where I know that I'm going to have some resistance for myself in it. Because there's sometimes, even when it's something we really wanted to do, we've all felt that in some way, shape, or form, of like that little, I just don't want, like, we think about it from like,
don't want to start it.
I don't want to do the dishes. I really freaking hate doing the dishes. And so if I set a timer, I'm going to go, all right, I'm going to do 10 minutes of dishes. And once 10 minutes are up, I'm going to see how I feel. And I was like, well, fuck.
And then
I'm
you're
almost done. I might as well finish.
Exactly.
I might as well finish the goddamn things.
It's the 5-minute
thing,
rule in the gym.
Yeah. And so, like, utilizing a tool like a timer can help so that you don't necessarily have to even wait to figure out that I'm bashing my head against the wall of this problem, only making it worse.
Yeah.
The other part of it, especially in music, the times that I've been in the studio is like, if I'm taking more than 3 takes, we gotta either put a pin in this or move on, because
Yeah, you got to know your spots.
I'm not gonna get better after 3 takes. Like
There's-
that means
let me-
I'm not prepared and I need to go back and prepare.
I was gonna say, because there's a difference there for people that are watching and they're like, "Oh shit, no, because I know what you're thinking out there.
Mm-hmm.
It's 3 takes. Like, yeah, you know the thing so well that you can put 3 different variations down. That's very
Yeah.
different. If you're bashing your head, you can't get through the chorus. You didn't prepare. You know,
No.
you were not ready. And I've been in those situations where I've got caught with my pants down on that, being like, "Oh no," or like something's just off. Time to move on. Let me work on that thing on my own so that we can be productive here in studio. But when we're talking about laying down 3 takes, like if you've got variations and things, you've got a solo piece or a bridge, you want to try a couple different interpretations, that's a totally different thing.
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
Just for clarity on that, because
Yeah,
I know
if
people, I
it's-
don't want to take that heat. Like, oh, it's no, come on. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I understand from that perspective, and to that point of, let's say you are in the recording process or even the writing process. Let's say you're on the 10th take and you're just not quite jiving with what's coming back at you.
Yeah.
I love to play opposites.
Yeah.
Say, like, I've done this in bands that I've been in. We've been in the songwriting process, and we're just not. It's good, but it's not really great.
Mm-hmm.
And it's been that, like, that's like the artistic killer, where you're like, yeah, I don't hate it,
Yeah. It's
but
okay.
exactly.
It's
You're like,
good.
I'd play that, I guess.
Yeah.
All right, let's make it ridiculous.
Yeah. Put
Let's-
the worst thing down.
Well, let's all right, everybody play this like it's a
Bar
90s
mitzvah.
grunge tune, or we're playing this for a bar mitzvah. We're like,
yeah.
let's put something, a ridiculous idea out there of what this would be like, or like,
Brings me.
if another artist we know and love was writing and performing this song, what would it sound like?
Yeah.
And just let everybody have fun with it. Again, it comes back to this play aspect.
Yeah.
Like, let's take that pressure cooker lid off and let's just let things air out a bit. Have some fun with it and get back to the play aspect of it. And then we come back and we play it as we would normally play it. And
Yeah, it's the theory, and this is very effective in business, in basically life. Constraint and sense of urgency. Put those 2 together, and you get creativity. You're forced into creativity. You have to problem solve, and that's all creative. For the people that think, "Oh, this isn't for me. I'm not a creative." Yes, you are. Have you ever problem solved? Yeah. Okay. Cool. You're creative. That's the definition of. So if you can put boundaries up, we do this all the time in the studio, and I've seen it transfer very well into business as well. If you've got a sense of urgency combined with a limited amount of either people in a cohort or spots, tickets. This is great for bands watching, like, how do I sell more tickets? Create a VIP pack of something that you really don't think you should let go for that kind of money, and put the 3 of them out there, and you'll sell those 3 first, I guarantee it. Right?
Or even
Constraints.
taking the risk on the, like, one of my favorite things in especially like the ticket sales and stuff like that. Well, nobody would ever buy that.
Oh man, all the time.
You sure? And those are the ones that those are the lightning in a bottle that people go, what? My favorite example of that was one of my favorite drummers, Josh Freese.
Yeah.
Back in the early 2000s, I think we've talked about this before, but
Yeah,
he
this is a
had
good
these
story, though.
these special edition versions of his solo album that he created, which is wild stuff. Like,
And for those who don't know, this is 9 Inch Nails drummer.
yep, 9 Inch Nails. He's currently for the Foo Fighters.
Yeah,
He's the Vandals, A Perfect Circle, like Devo. Josh Freese has been around and high level performer
Very
for a
good
long
player.
time.
Yeah.
Yes. And he, oftentimes people don't think necessarily drummers as like songwriters. Like they're just the drummer, right? They just bang on shit.
Just the drums, hitting
yeah.
the shit.
And so he was making these really interesting, like quasi electronic, like just some out there and wild stuff. And he's like, you know, nobody's itching to buy a Josh Freese album, really.
Right.
And so he started creating these special edition packages that were, some of them were incredibly bizarre, some of them were incredibly cool, and some of them were like for $500. You buy the album and he'll meet you at Taco Bell for lunch or something like that if you're in Santa Barbara.
So funny.
It was like $10,000 and you get the album, a snare out of his snare collection, and his like old Volvo station wagon. I think there was one that was like $25,000-$30,000, and Danny Carey and him will pick you up in Danny Carey's Lamborghini, and you'll run around L.A. on mushrooms. Like, it was some crazy
but it's
stuff.
so direct. Like, it's not just, oh, we'll go have a VIP day. It's like, no, we're going to Taco Bell.
Yeah.
It's like, okay. That's creative. I love that.
We're gonna meet at Disney World for the day or something. Like, like you have to get here on your own, all these things, but for this amount of money, you get the album, you get whatever else, and we're gonna hang out at Disneyland. And he did these things almost as a joke at first, thinking nobody would ever, and then all of a sudden you just see them one by one, just sold. People were doing this.
That's amazing.
Yeah. And so there might be some things in your world that you could, like, what is the crazy thing I could offer? What is the crazy thing I could package up? Yeah. Something else you said, which I love, is that you talked about if you're solving problems, you're creative. Early on in my tech career, I got introduced to this guy, Mike Montero. Mike Montero is he's a professional designer in the tech world, kind of a gruff, gravelly guy. He always, part of his presentation and part of what he was talking about is a talk called "How Designers Destroyed the World."
Okay.
And so he would be at these talks, and there'd be some front-end UX, UI, digital designers in the crowd. You also get a lot of software engineers and project managers and executives and things like that. And he's like, all right, if you're a designer, please stand up. Oh, very good. Thank you. Nobody else? You get that handful of them. He's like, well, if you're a software engineer, you're solving problems, you're designing software, stand up. Congratulate yourself. If you're designing project plans, stand up. Congratulate, like, you're a designer. And so by the time they got through it, everybody's standing like, oh shit, I am a designer. I am a creative, even though I may not necessarily consider myself as such.
Yeah.
When bringing up this idea of creative blocks as well, I see this a lot in people who are just getting started as artists.
Yeah.
Is that there's so much of their identity is outside of seeing themselves as somebody who could do this.
Yeah. Huge.
And that comes in hot. Like, that stops you dead in your tracks.
Big time. It's all identity. That's 100% that's your motivating, that's your thought, that's your base of your outcome. If you don't actually think you're creative, you won't create.
Yeah. Or even you're like, oh yeah, I dabble, or I'm okay.
Closet creative.
Yeah. In parts of that, though, being able to take a look at that, and again, look, what's my resistance to actually believing that I'm good at this? What's my resistance to actually believing that I can or could do this? Where's that coming from? And getting deep into that exploration of what's actually holding me back. Am I more in love with my failure to launch on this than I am with the possibility of success with it? Or even the possibility of enjoying the process of creating?
Yeah, that's a big part. How much of it do you think is imposter syndrome versus beginner syndrome?
Well, let's talk a little bit about how we would define that a
Yeah.
bit more.
Okay. Beginner syndrome. I'll start there. The way I like to explain that to people whenever this kind of comes up, I go, yeah, okay, how many repetitions have you done at X exercise? Well, I've never done it before. Would it be fair to assume like you've also never done calculus? Are you going to be great at that right off the bat? Well, no, of course not. Okay, cool. If I were to ask you to come up and play drums for my band, would you be good at that? Have you ever played drums? Well, no, of course not. Okay, so is that you being an imposter? No, I've never done it. Okay. That's a beginner syndrome. If you've, for me to say I've been playing drums since I was, well, really since I was like 6, just banging away on stuff, but an actual drum set since like 12, 13, 14, somewhere in there. I've got a lot of hours on that. So anybody that doesn't have that same amount of hours on a drum set would be in a different league as far as imposters go. An imposter is a believing of not being good enough being in that same league, right? But the hours matter, right? Sure, there's some like virtuosos that just like sit down behind a drum, they've never done it before, and they're just fucking lights out good.
Yeah.
Virtuoso, okay? They're there. The average bear sitting down behind an instrument or on an instrument or just sitting down to do some sort of task, it's going to take some time to learn it, right? And the stats on it are what, 20 hours before you become to a level of like intermediate, like you can be proficient at 20 hours, something like that.
You know, I don't exactly know the figures on that, but you know, just being able to be competent, like
Doesn't take long is what I'm
No,
saying. It's
no.
like it's in and around the 20 hour from what I remember reading. And I'm like, okay. So if you can get competent to learn a song on that, that's the starting point. That's the kick of the beginners. You know, that's what I saw great success when I was teaching students music. Like get them learning something they want to learn so they don't have to do scales, they don't have to do rudiments. No, that'll be afterwards once they get in on they get hooked on the actual love of the game. And then you can learn that stuff. You don't have to start right there. And I think that's why a lot of kids get turned away from music. That's my take on like beginner syndrome.
yeah.
The imposter is the opposite of that. The one who just gets in there, they've been doing it forever. Maybe they're even a professional musician. A lot of the guys that I've worked with, guys and girls, that I've worked with are like, you wouldn't believe the kind of people that are like shitting themselves behind the stage. You're like, wait, what? They choke.
Yeah.
You know? They
Or the
feel it
ones that
somatically.
come off the stage and you're like, that was an amazing set. Holy shit, you're really great. Yeah, well, you know, I just didn't quite do as well as I thought, you know. And you're like,
deflect. Yeah.
shut up. Like
Yeah.
take it. Take that compliment. Like, yeah.
That's
Those
tough,
are the
man.
those are the people who got that imposter syndrome hard.
Yeah.
You know, I had a mentor of sorts one time tell me, you know, people who are imposters know they're imposters. Like they're actively trying to deceive people. Are you actively trying to deceive people?
Yeah.
No? Then you're not an imposter.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Because if you are, you're also an asshole.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Right. Like they
good
know,
point,
and
man.
they don't necessarily like think of it that way. Like
Yep.
So many times, more often than not, it's exactly what you said. When we don't feel like we don't quite feel like we're measuring up to the level that we feel like we should or that we could.
Yep.
That's almost always a beginner syndrome byproduct.
Yeah. Yep.
Like you are still exploring what it's like to be competent in what you're doing.
Yeah.
And I would bring that in when we're talking about creative blocks and we're talking about like especially songwriting.
Yeah.
Like if you've written one whole song and now you're under a lot of pressure to write another song and another song, I mean you're doubling your creative output that you've ever done. That is a Herculean task.
Yeah.
Proud of you for doing it. And it gets easier as you do it. It's like the first song you learned to play all the way through. The second one was a little easier. The next one was a little easier. And then you get to a point where you're like, you know, you've been there, I've been there. where you get the set list for a cover gig for a 4 hour set, and you go, "Gotta do this on Friday." I don't know any of these songs.
Yeah.
Shit.
Okay, let's go.
Yeah.
Half the
all right.
set's gonna be learnt on stage.
Yeah.
That's exciting though, because you understand the archetype of a song. That's the thing. I want to bring that back, because especially talking on the songwriting point, for folks that are struggling with songwriting creative blocks, go listen to the greats. Go listen to the Beatles. Go listen to the Zeppelins. Go listen to the Stones. Go listen to like the legendary songs. Not because I don't give a shit if you like it or not. It's to listen to how a good song is written. Because if you listen to it, you'll start to see like the stereotypical kind of bop, 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 bop. This is the way it works. Here it is. This is a chorus, verse, chorus, verse, chorus. It starts here. The songs or the vocals come in here. You'll learn the archetypical song so that now it's in your head, and now you can write. That's one way to like listen to something. It's like observe. Be part of the thing.
Well, I look at it because I went through the fancy pants path of studying, that more classically trained path of, all right, let's learn the foundations of what is this music thing, like how is this all laid out, and how do we make all these different colors, and like how do we create what is this construct of music, and how is it from a form perspective laid out in all kinds of different genres. So, different time periods have different forms of how the music would play out. ABA, ABBA, like different parts of this. ABC, BA, like you probably learned some of this in like elementary music if you remember way back.
Yeah.
I loved the fact in that perspective, and it's much like what the Beatles and Zeppelin did, is that they were playing into a specific form. The Beatles didn't become the Beatles overnight. They didn't just come together and be like, I got an idea for an album. Let's write that. They played those gigs in Hamburg over and over, playing other people's songs and studying songcraft through that and going, oh, these are okay. We're putting together these, you talk about moments all the time. Like, okay, we noticed that people go wild when we do this.
Yeah, this
We play
creates
this kind of song, or this type of format, or this structure of a song, or hey, we put our twist on this popular song. All right, cool. Put that in the back of my head. We did this a lot because I studied composition, and one of my favorite composer of all time, Dmitri Shostakovich. He was one of those child prodigies as far as composition goes. But it was in the conservatories of studying music history, and what was it like? If you're going to write a symphony, you should probably know what the form of a symphony actually is before you write it.
Yeah.
And started off fairly textbook in a lot of ways, and then because he knew what the rules were, he's like, all right, I know what the rules are. Now I can purposely break them. Now I can play with this, and I can make it fun for not only myself as the creative, but the listener as well, because they're expecting this to happen, and I'm going to turn it on its head and make it into a parody of itself. Yeah. I'm going to make it something that's an actual journey for the listener. Yeah. And exactly to your point is like, listen, and don't listen, start to listen to music as if you were creating it, or if you're in the studio with the artist, of like, okay, we've got these blocks or these sections, verse, chorus, bridge, all these things. How are we laying this out? Listening to it as the creative instead of the passive music listener or enjoyer. Being able to dissect those things really helps, or at least it helped me a lot in my process, or building my process.
Huge. I feel the same way with like going to shows. I have to actively like turn my brain off from working the show. Yeah. Like when I go to a show, like for tomorrow, you mentioned, what are you listening to? I should have said this, like Arkells play Calgary tomorrow, and I'm very excited about going to that show. And I just thought of one of the ways that, what you were saying, like put these big bundles together. So expect some media coming out after this. It'll be funny. The point I'm trying to make on that though is like when you go and you study the greats, like the university course that put me through like into music for sure was history of Led Zeppelin. But I had to go through. In hindsight, I love this. I had to go through like music up to the Baroque. I had to learn where like music really like we were doing like Gregorian chants in class, man. Like we're
Totally. Yeah, I've got a bin right over there full of my handwritten transcripts or like my handwritten compositions in those forms.
Yeah, we had to learn that.
Yeah,
because that's where like to get to the popular music history, you had Stones or Zeppelin. I took Zeppelin, of course. I'm like, well, my dad already gave me the history of the Stones, so I'm good. And we got to play and we got to like write a whole band. So I brought my whole band into my university class. It was great. And we had a lot of fun. This was like the class that you would show up. It was like a late night class, like 8 p.m. start kind of thing. We were all showing up in like pajamas and probably coming from the den, the pub, to come take Zeppelin class, right? And it taught us so much about like popular music. It was wild. It was so cool. Oh, where'd my Jer go? Jer, come back!
Sorry, I had another timer running in the other room,
good.
and it was going off, and I'm like, oh, they're just gonna hear this thing going doo 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 in the background.
We should just like that's our cue. No, that's our cue. That's a commercial break, ladies and gentlemen. Here's a word from our sponsor.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the word.
Breathe. Take that. And again,
Breathe.
Coming back to that.
Yeah.
Word from our sponsor: air, breath.
Yeah. Oh my goodness.
When you're in that space where you're trying to put pen to paper, I find this especially with lyrics personally, is like the colors and shapes of the sound. Like I've done enough work, writing things out and considering like the sonic palette, putting the pen to paper to make the words match up to it, or like figure out like what am I actually going to do there. That can become a pressure point for me, and I recognize that. There was a really cool. I just posted this on my Instagram of Sean Waxman. It always comes back to weightlifting for me.
Yeah. Okay.
Sean Waxman, legendary weightlifting coach, and he was talking about in COVID. We're talking about a guy who was trying to get to the Olympics at one point as a lifter. He's been coaching a long time. Where he was talking about where he's like, I realized that the pursuit of strength, I wasn't afraid of it anymore. He's like, I could put 500 pounds on my back, and I wouldn't be afraid of it. I could squat it. Even if I didn't squat it, I'm not afraid of it. And he's like, I came into the gym one day, and I put the keys on the jerk blocks, and there was the prowler in front of me. And I just started, he's like, this is the type of stuff I would avoid constantly. And he's like, I recognized that there was some fear there for it. Yeah. And that leaning into that sense of being uncomfortable and being afraid. He's like, I was pushing this prowler back and forth, and I just started crying. Because I was in this space that was pushing my comfort zone, pushing my comfort limit. In that, for creatives, those are the things that create those magical, vulnerable moments for us too. Is that we are opening ourselves up. If we are looking at it from a point of expression, it can be a vulnerable and scary thing. And that's where the growth comes. That's where the magic comes from, man. Yeah. Like, yeah, we can look at the big money song production farms and stuff out there like Nashville and things like that, where yeah, you're trying to craft something particular in a specific way. Those aren't usually the things that people are like still talking about 10 years later.
Yeah.
It's the stuff that really where the person has a real, genuine emotional connection to the thing that they're creating, that comes through. Those are some of my favorites. Are you familiar with the band Arab Strap at all?
Heard of? I don't know why. Probably you. You've probably told
Possible.
me. Yeah.
One of my absolute favorite songs, and it's kind of that. I sent you a post of like the Midwest emo with Lord of the Rings. It's kind of got that kind of a background thing.
Okay. Yeah.
And the guy, the song's called New Birds, and the frontman, he's just up there telling this story about running into an old ex-girlfriend at the bar. And the album version and every subsequent live version is somewhat different. It's still the same story, but he may tell it in a slightly different way, to where you can tell he's still recounting this experience with this person over and over, and he's fully in the moment every single time, because he's telling this story over and over again, and it's got a pull to it, because most people can relate to something like that. And when he's allowing that vulnerability and allowing to be afraid in the moment to share that, even for the 1000th time, that the audience is pulled in with it too. It's created something that is beyond himself, and that everybody can experience at the same time. So, long story short, folks, do stuff that you're afraid of. Lean into it, because that's what's going to make you the best version and the best creative self that you can be.
Yeah. Dude, you got any resources that people could pick up on if they want more help with this? Where did you first figure it out? Was it a book? Was it a video? Was it anything?
You know, really, for me, it's been in the school of life, in the school of constantly looking for that next place to grow. Trying the new thing, being the white belt, in a lot of ways. I don't have a specific book that really pushed me through into a next level, or like really was that game changer for me. It was the culmination of all of the other experiences of being in it, and there's oftentimes the fears of failure. And I look at it this way: of the only times that I'm really failing is if I completely give up and walk away.
Yeah.
I've weaved in and out as a musician and an artist myself. I have my seasons of where I'm really into it, and there's seasons where I'm just I put it down, and I pick up my instruments from very, very sporadic times. But I've never quit.
Yeah.
I've never just said, I'm selling all my stuff, I'm done.
No.
I just quit, I'm done. Like, even though I told everybody this spring that I unofficially retired as a gigging musician, like, I still have all my stuff.
Yeah.
I still play. It's just, it looks different for me now than having to go out and play bar gigs every weekend for $150.
That's a good point, because I think a lot of people really feel like they're doing but everybody know, but like your version of music can change. Like, I looked at that myself. I'm like, but my music is like for me, and most of the stuff that I get publishing and I get sync deals from is like for places like Headspace or Calm or coaches like that ask me to do podcast intros and things like that, different frequency things like meditation work. Like, there's so much. Music is a part of, name one thing that you don't have a background of soundtrack. And if you're creating, because you've got a family, you're creating music to like sing lullabies to your kids now, like that's being a musician, that's being a creative. It's actually even more challenging, because it's like, in a way, I had imagined that's even more pressure, right? Because like, those are your kids. Like, what if they tell you you suck?
Yeah.
right? Like
Or
there's more
you've
pressure.
written a heartfelt song for somebody,
Yeah.
and you're like, well, what if they don't like it? Well, what if you like it?
What if you like it?
Yeah.
Exactly. What if?
Yeah.
Yeah, dude. I think there's a lot of ranges of what that means for somebody as far as creativity goes, and overcoming those blocks really comes down to identifying that there is a block, and then figuring out if there's something to do, and then if there is, do it,
Yeah.
and if
And-
there isn't, stop worrying about it.
Yeah. Or like to Mr. Waxman's point of like, okay, what am I actually afraid of here?
Yeah.
Is it actually that scary? What am I actually afraid of right now? And is that going to be okay? Or can I lean into that fear a little bit more and see what comes out on the other end? Or is that a deeper rabbit hole I need some support with, where coaches like Mike and myself could definitely help out with that?
Yeah. Yeah.
I know you're well read on the subject of creativity.
I love like the fascination of like different perspectives. I could list like 10 books off the
Yeah.
top of my head. The ones that really, the first book that was ever got me off of the I'm just a drummer train was one that was gifted to me by a dear friend named Kirby Criddle. Forget if she gave me a copy of it while she was visiting at one point, and then I just went out and bought it, and then called my brother up 2 days later and said, "Hey, can I have your guitar for a while?" He's like, "What? You can't hit it." Like, no, I won't.
Yeah.
But that's Stephen Pressfield's The War of Art. That's one of the greatest creative block resistance books out there. It's very easy to read as well. It's not a big. It's just like snippets, so it's very user friendly for creatives with the attention span of a squirrel. The second I would put up there was one I picked up in Richmond, Virginia, in a little bookstore on a coffee walk, called "Make Your Art No Matter What" by Beth Pickens. Really great book. Very tangible, very practical ideas. She comes at it from more of a psychologist, counseling, also consulting with all of her creative clients. She basically just put her practice into a book, which was great. Very useful information, some really practical, tangible tools. The best lesson I got out of that one was taking a day off completely. As counterintuitive as it is, take a day off screens, off work, and you recharge, and you get what we were talking about. Go for a walk. Take a whole 24 hours to go for a walk.
Yeah, set
Just
it down.
Get out. Yeah, just bring it right out. The third would be my favorite author of all time, Todd Henry, The Brave Habit. And that one really starts to unlock the accidental creative, and The Brave Habit are they're both his books. Anything from Todd Henry is just geared towards creatives and unlocking that thing. I'd have to say The Brave Habit is more of like an advanced read. If you want to get into Todd's writing, I'd say Accidental Creative is a really, really great book to just learn the tools to like put your brain into a system where you're usually governed by people with much more analytical. So if you're working as a profession and you've got people that are running the organization, they don't understand how you work. They expect you to demand they demand stuff by Friday at this time and this time because that's their deadlines. That's not how creativity works. So it's like learning how to like manage that and put it in so that you can continually create on demand and give yourself enough juice to be able to do that for a long time. So it comes back to like my whole message of being sustainable with your creativity and successful with your sustainability as well. So yeah, those three.
As you were talking, I said, "Oh, I don't have anything that really." That I was like, "Oh," and then of course one pops up. As we're on a reading list recommendation, one that did really change for me is "Loving What Is" by Byron Katie.
Okay.
Because you'll take it. There's so many
sure.
parallels to a lot of the work that we do. You'll see a lot of parallels there. And much like entrepreneurship. I've heard this for years and had some experience with this myself, is that's the best personal development program out there, is because it is so intertwined with who you are and how you see yourself. It's when it's all on you, it's oftentimes some sink or swim, regardless of the mental chatter that's happening in your head. And so she outlines a process that helped her go from paralyzed in her bed, terrorized by her kids, just a victim of her own circumstances, to somebody who helps other people unlock their lives. And so much of creative blocks come from within. And when we can work deep into ourselves and really start to nurture that mindset and nurture who we are, our creativity comes along for the ride, and it opens up whole new avenues for us to actually actively play and enjoy what we're doing.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's momentum too. It's like just getting started would be the first step on creativity. Like move in any direction.
Yeah.
Like all the stuff that we've said, that's the one common denominator. Move in any direction. If you think that it sounds ridiculous, I have actually created one of my bands, Robbins Avenue. We were really stuck on this one song. There's this great hook, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to do something. I pulled the ridiculous card. I'm going to do the most ridiculous beat ever, and I told them that. Like, we're going to jam this. I'm not going to play anything that you're familiar with at all. I pulled out, like, a samba.
Yeah. 3-2.
And it was so good, and it just laid in so nice. We were all like laughing so hard because it's like the Mexican national anthem. That's what it sounded like. That's what we literally called it. And all these shots on twos and stuff like that. And it really laid in. Okay, I can't just do this and not actually show it, because it was like I'm gonna pull this song up because it was ridiculous. I was playing like a standard indie rock groove, and then I'll give you the demo that we recorded, multi-tracked. I recorded it on an EAD on drums to just get a demo out. I'm gonna see if I've got this still in my. This would be really funny, guys, because like you have to hear this. This is how ridiculous this thing is. Robbins Avenue, and we since took it to like a different producer. Of course, you'll hear the difference. And this is like, it's show and tell time. You okay with this? We're okay with this, right?
I love it.
Okay, because this is exactly what it was ridiculous. I'm telling you, we all just laughed our asses off when this went down. We're like, it kind of works. Shit. Let me know if you hear things when I play this song. This isn't it, but you hear stuff? Okay. Okay, cool. Well, we know that works. Let's bring it down a bit, and we'll play here. Robbins Avenue, Home, the original demo. And I was like, boom, tap, boom, boom, tap. And then it's just like straight like country kind of thing, like hats and kick.
Are you still waiting for that time they break?
And that's a hoedown.
Yeah.
And that's the thing.
You're always questioning the roasted teak, because it never felt like home. Sometimes I like to think you're open for a little change of scenery.
But that's the difference between it being, you know, a straightforward 4 on the floor backbeat. Like it makes it come alive in a whole different way.
The contrast.
Yeah.
And now the chorus is like up there, right? Okay, so we take this to our producer, right? And then it becomes like a good pop song, like this one. We just take the good parts. This track, I can tell you, I had to play every instrument on its own.
All right.
Just the snare.
Always questioning roasted
Fuck. You know how hard that is?
Yeah.
And the cymbals without a kick drum. What? Like, you're joking, right? I couldn't do it. Like, I was like,
It's like you're a one-man drum line.
yeah.
Yeah.
And the stick I was using was like this thick, man. It was like a hockey stick. I was hitting the snare with a hockey stick.
Yeah.
But you take the bits and pieces, and now this is the track. So this is what I was recorded on. This is a band called Robbins Avenue when I was in Hamilton, Ontario.
Yeah.
And we came back here, and this was like the next day I flew out to Australia for 2.5 years. Or
Yeah.
almost 2 years, not 2.5
Yeah.
years. Yeah.
Well,
That
it's
was-
like as you were talking about, pulling that ridiculous thing out. Are you familiar with Bobby Sanabria?
no,
Latin
I be?
percussionist.
I should be.
Yeah,
I should be.
legendary,
I should be, no.
legendary.
Maybe I do.
Yeah.
Is he a Santana guy?
I played with him for a bit. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So I probably do know
he's
him.
played anybody.
Don't know
in
him by
that-
name.
Yeah, anybody in that Latin flavor.
Yeah.
I had a very, very, very lucky to have gotten to see him present at a jazz festival. And he has a presentation on, in Latin music, there's all these different types of beats. You've got samba, you've got conga, you've got all these different types. At their core, they have something called a 3/2 clave.
Oh yeah.
And he's like, that beat is so primal in humans. Like that is such a heartbeat.
It makes you dance. It makes you sweat.
Exactly.
Like this,
Yeah.
right?
And he's like, even the straightest of straight music, 4/4, 1/2, a waltz. Like you can still play this in, and it'll turn a switch and make everything come alive. And he would be behind the drum kit the whole time that he's doing this this presentation, and he'd just start playing stuff, and he had a whole band up on stage, and he'd call out, start playing stuff, and then he would start laying in like pop music on top of it, and you're just like, oh shit. There's just it comes back to this form aspect of creativity. It was like, oh, so there are all these conventions. There's all of these building blocks, these Lego pieces that we're aware of, but we're not aware of sometimes.
Yeah.
And when we can discover that little building block, oh, I can build a whole new thing now, and I can get really, really into that flow state, being able to pull that out of my back pocket from time to time.
Yeah.
And I always think that's really cool. But yeah, if you get a chance, I think he's presented it multiple times. That was like his signature workshop. 3/2 clave.
Yeah.
Definitely check that out. It's a lot of fun. Really cool.
I remember being put on spot when I was in Metalworks in my audition. I had just finished my sight reading, nailed it, which I was terrified of. I hadn't never read music before in my life. And I did a crash course with Matt Doherty for like 2 weeks before I went to Metalworks, and I did well. And then they're like, okay, show us what you got in the kit, and let's start with the 3/2 clave. I was like, oh, I got this in the bag, and I just like, where do you want it? I was like, okay, I was just doing the Latin thing. Okay, now 2/3 it. I was like,
Yep.
and I picked it up like that. I was like, oh God. I was like, but that was like the intro is like, and then the bossa, they wanted a bossa on top of that. And I was like, oh God, but I had like my bossa down. That was like one of the only Latin pieces I got. Guys, if you're drumming, learn your gospel chops, learn your Latin chops, and you will be okay. Learn your country chops. You get those three down, you can do anything in music. That's the basis of drumming, is those three genres. And if you can intertwine them with one another, you put like a reggae drop in a country song, it just brings that song to a different level. And to close, that's the thing. Like, you've got certain rules that once you understand them, you can bend them and break them and make them your own thing. That's creativity at its finest right there. You want to break the resistance? listen to more things, be more familiar with more things, so that you can, when you do get stuck, because you will, you have more tools to use against that stuckness.
Exactly. And you also have that wealth of evidence that you know how to get unstuck, and you know how to rise to that challenge, rise to that internal fear that comes up with it. Yeah. You know, in the non-rhythmic world, it's all the boring shit, you know. I get it. It's the scales and the chords, and also there's just so much that you can use from those things. Yeah, you can make it really boring and just, I'm gonna run scales and etudes and get really academic about it. But it's also, okay, where can I go and I can listen to a Victor Wooten Brothers track, and I can pick out, this is where they're going with this. Okay, I hear it now. Especially if you're looking to pick up songs, like, it helps so much because, like, this sounds like it's a you know
where it's
a
gonna go.
Mixolydian thing, or this is a really minor heavy thing. Okay, I got a sketch of what the thing is, and it allows you to get into it a little bit more.
Yeah.
It's like I look at that of, like, a couple weeks ago I was jamming on some Jamiroquai tunes.
Oh yeah, dude.
You know, Xander's on, like, yeah. Like,
What brilliant albums. Oh my god.
oh man. So, like, the first two albums, their bass player, he was 18. Like, criminal how good he was.
Insanity.
He still is.
Virtual insanity.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. But again, you look at somebody like that, and so much of it comes back to where he's like, I figured out what my building blocks were, and I figured out what the blocks were, and then I can pull it in, and then I can be creative with it, and I can bend it, I can shape it however I want, or if I don't like the castle I'm making out of Legos, oh shit, I can redo it, and I got a spaceship. Yeah.
Castle, spaceship. It's great. All right, dude. Let's wind it down. What you got on? Where can people? Do you have anything happening right now?
Not a whole lot
laying
happening
low?
in my world right now. Laying a bit low. You know, I'm taking I'm still available to help folks if they need some help virtually. But my in-person coaching is going. We are on the heels of Olympic weightlifting season in the high school world. So my time is getting into in season for that. And yeah, but I'm definitely still open to help folks, help them work through those stories if they're struggling with their creativity, getting into a better performance mindset. But otherwise, that's all I got coming up. How about you?
I was just gonna say I'm in course creation mode right now. So in the school, I am going to town over the next 10 days to get. I've got templates all up, and it's just booking off time to be in front and look polished and put these things out there and get some really great resources where they're just snippets. They're really short courses, and I'd love your hand in creating too in the school because, like, this topic comes back to, if we can put some more thoughts, more what do they say, more minds in the melting pot here, that would be really, really helpful to get your takes on some of these different thoughts. So keep your eye out for that. As far as what we've got going on in the tribe, though, we've got our Movember, which is, I'm really excited about that. We've got a lot of different events. I've got to keep the beard on right now because I got a photo shoot. So it will turn into a mustache. It will be dirty and nasty, like a gross, dirty, nasty mustache by the end of November. I've just got a couple things that I got to still look not as dirty and nasty on these professional photo shoots. But we've got walks and a run on the 16th. So you can go for a 5K walk and talk or a run for fun. What else have we got going on? Donate, share your story, put up an event, squat, mace, anything to raise some funds. So if anybody wants to do that, that's everything's alive in school, man. Like that's where people go to the Music Fit U, and that's where everything is. I'm thinking about that too, and I want to get your thoughts here as we just one more question. Using Music Fit University as like the creative between educators, like this half of us, and then the artist athletes, the other half of us, and bringing them together like a master class in a really nice communal setting where it's not all about money. It's more about like the learning and trying to get people to inspire their own conversation and meet people and network. And I was thinking about that because like everybody in that course or everybody in that community right now is like profound at what they do. And if they had the option to create a course and put that into the community and then share their skills, it's really just an upskill for everybody in there. I like that idea. What are your thoughts on that?
I love it because, there's also that point since we're talking about creativity and we talked a bit about vulnerability, is like there is an incredible experience in putting that out there, and especially if you're doing it and nobody else is really doing it, or like I have this unique thing to share. Oh, cool! I saw that guy or that gal share their experience of how they got this way.
Yeah.
Oh, I have something a little bit different, and I can share that too.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it is very like we can sit at the, it's easy for, especially in the coaching world, to say, well, you have to come to me for the answers. And I've always hated that in the coaching world personally, of like, I've heard of coaches where they're like, well, I have to make sure that my athletes need me. I was like, that's the worst. No, that's the worst.
Worst.
I was like, maybe
coach.
I'm too lazy as a coach. I'm like, I want them to not need me. We've talked about this before. It's like, I want them to have to fire me. I want them to need, I don't need you anymore.
Yeah.
That's the greatest thing in the world.
Yeah. Best day. Yeah.
I thought about that from like even as a manager, development manager, managing engineers. I was like, it was when somebody found an opportunity at another organization, like that was the best compliment.
Yeah.
Like they're not leaving because they're pissed off at me or pissed off at, like, I just found something that was a bigger challenge for me. I was like, cool. You outgrew us.
Yeah,
we helped create the situation that you grew so much that you were bored with what we were doing.
Great.
That's awesome.
Win.
Yes.
Huge win. They do say the 12th step of the other 12-step program is mastery, is in teaching, right? Is like, in order to fully master the skill, you must teach it. And that's what I want to get to in that community for sure. So if you guys are like, what community? school.com/musicfituniversity/about. You can see the whole welcome page in there. Jared's in there. Jared's bringing friends. I got a bunch of friends in there. We got a bunch of really great creatives, and I got a bunch of randoms that I've never met before that they just found it. They're like, yeah, I love what you're doing. I'm like, I love you. That's great. Well, let's go. So it's going to be really interesting. So I'm going to put that in the next, like in this month, that's my plan, is that, hey guys, I'm happy to teach you how to make a good, solid branded course that you guys can, you can choose to like give that back to the community. You can choose to charge for it. I don't care. It's just like, if there's something in there that we want to unlock when it comes to creativity, I want to have as many gangster resources as I possibly can in that community, and that's the big plan for the push for the rest of the year here, is just getting that down and working on course curriculum and then licensing it out to other coaches that don't necessarily have those skills. So okay, well, cool. Look, at all of my facilitators can do that. So get you gigs with licensing. That's a skill set of mine.
Yeah.
The cheerleader.
Well, and it's also like, all right, you're also really great at throwing the party and inviting everybody to be part of the party.
Thank you, sir. It's my favorite thing to do.
I know.
It's my favorite thing to do. Oh, we talked about, okay, just to like recap from last week though, dude. The MFL. Dude, we have it all right here. It's literally on my wrist, and that's it. That's it for now. Like, we'll use that as the minimum dose right now. Bring people in. They get a free month in. and then we can start to track what their progress, what they don't. It's really hard to manage what you're not tracking.
Yeah.
Right. So with regards to your health and wellness, if you're an artist athlete out there, just get in the school. That's the number one place. Just come to school. Come to school. It's a fun school. No homework, unless you choose to make it homework. It's fun. We got Jeremy here. We got me. We got Meg. Got some really good conversations. We got Trevor. He's putting together a TikTok course.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, because I was telling him about the stuff you and I were talking about. I'd love you guys to chat. Maybe Trev, maybe we can get you on one of these, man. Maybe we can do a little.
Yeah.
When he gets more of his outline down, we'll bring him on and we'll grill him. Like, dude, what's your course about? Because I know nothing about TikTok. Know nothing.
I know
So-
enough to be dangerous on like, hey, I've heard these things and like
Yeah,
these are the,
okay,
yeah,
good.
yeah.
Let's get that. I'll light the fire under his ass. Trev, if you're watching, dude, you probably are on Facebook. I'm gonna light a fire under your ass, man. We gotta get this thing rolling. So especially before the holiday. So
Definitely.
that'll be good. All right, you got any other closing words? I'm good.
No, let's bring it home, man.
I'm complete. Okay, sweet. Do this again for next week.
Hell yeah.
Fuck yeah. Okay, stay sweet, brother. I'm gonna go hit the gym and rebook this. What would Taylor Swift do? I'm putting the 3-part series. So you guys pay attention. Everybody else, thank you for watching. Jer, stay sweet, brother.
See you soon.
Peace. You're right.
Woo.
Wee poop wop beep poop. I have no
Not
idea
at
if it
all.
stopped. All right, there we go. Of